Welcome back, any and everybody. This is Linen Otter here to do another episode of One Last Night. Alright, I don't even know how to preface this. I think if you remember last time for some revelations. Okay, I'm gonna skip through this so I don't have to edit so much. So, there, bending over another man, was Alistair. They were parallel to the door, so I could see both of them in full view as they Both had frozen as I'd opened the door, and they stared at me in shocked surprise. I think Alistair must have called out to me at that moment, but my ears were dead to the world as I fled, my heart racing. I couldn't believe the sight before me. I couldn't help but wonder what I could have done better, where I had gone wrong, what had led things to the point where he'd cheat on me. All these thoughts echoed through my head as I fled into the night. The image burned behind my eyes. Alistair, naked with a man whose face I'd never forget. The one and only Palace's cat I've ever met, who stands up there now next to his master. So it is him. So this is confirming. Okay, yeah. Oh, jeez. Ah, okay. Fade away, please. Excuse me. The next day, I returned to find Alistair there waiting for me. I had wandered the city all night before finally returning back to my ruined home. I screamed at Alistair, asking him how he could do this and why. I was pissed and hurt and full of negative emotions that I couldn't keep in anymore. If he had talked to me, I would have been fine opening up our relationship. I understand that sometimes you can't always fill a partner's needs completely. But the deceit, going behind my back to do it, that was a complete breach of trust I couldn't forgive. By the time I'd finished saying my piece, tears wetting my cheeks, I finally looked at him again properly, and his expression told me everything I needed to know. He looked indifferent, as though nothing I'd said had meant a thing to him, as though the past nearly 2 years of our lives were all for nothing. And that look was more than I could handle. I walked away, grabbing what of mine I could quickly find, packing it up and calling Will in desperation. He was immediately sympathetic and let me stay for a little while. And as I left that apartment, the place I thought it could have been my true home with the man I thought was my forever, I saw that look again on his face. And that was the last time I ever saw Alistair. Until now. And there was a silence amongst us as I finished the story. Nobody quite sure how to respond to the situation. Or even how to turn the timer on, since we'd forgotten. Goodness gracious. I just laid 2 major events from my life bare for the 3 of them to do with as they pleased, with the majority of one having to do with the one person who was holding all of us captive. Frankly, both things were trauma I hadn't wanted to relive, but were necessary in order for them to have a better picture in understanding our captor. I couldn't help myself worrying over what they would say, though. I knew I wasn't in the wrong for what happened, yet a part of me felt like I was even after all this time. He was and will always be my first love, someone who set my life on a new path. I'm not sure I ever would have ventured on if I'd never met him. He changed a lot of me for the better when we were together. I said I hated the lion, that I absolutely despised him for everything that transpired, which was mostly true. But I knew that a piece of my heart still belonged to him. And that part is what regretted not having heard him out most of all. There were still so many unanswered questions I had about everything, but I couldn't waste my time thinking about those right now. I brought my focus back to my 3 companions, the silence stretching out further on until Shen eventually broke it. Well, shit. It wasn't the most elegant response, but one I'd take nonetheless. The other 2 seemed to relax at not having to be still and silent anymore thanks to the hyena. Almost immediately I found myself wrapped in a double hug from both Xavier and Treat in an effort for them to show their support for me in the scenario. I graciously accepted it and hugged them back, enjoying the affection. I realized now that a few stray tears had fallen down my face during the story that it took a second to wipe away. When the hug ended, me having to tap on Treat's shoulder to prevent him from squeezing us and our injuries too hard, there was still an awkward energy floating around the group. None of us knew what to say next. Shen seemed to be contemplating something as they looked at me up and down. What is it? They sighed. It's not that I don't believe your story, because I do, but there's just one detail that's missing that I need to know. I'm not sure what I'd left out in the tale, but if it helps them trust me, I'm more than willing to give it. Yeah, ask away. They didn't miss a beat. How big is Alistair's dick? Jeez. I had a feeling. I blinked, knowing I should have expected something like this from them, but still being caught off guard nonetheless. Treat immediately stood up and moved to smack Shen in the back of the head. The hyena dodged and began to use Xavier and I as a barrier as Treat chased them. I could almost hear the cartoon chase music start up. I found myself smiling at the antics. The tension from before dissipated. Somehow they'd know just what to say to get things back on track. Which meant it was my turn to respond and 2 could play their game. Well, 9 inches. What? I feel like he's lying. All of them turned to me. What? Hold on. It's a little too early in the day for me to try and do Treat's voice so low. Hold on. What? Shen asked how big he was. That's the answer. 9 inches. Shen whistled. Damn, Dorian. Impressive. Well, I knew you could take it. I didn't realize just how much you had it in you. Who says it was just in me? Stop it, Dorian. I can't. Their eyes widened before a laugh. All right, I respect it. Game recognized game. Jeez. They gave an approving nod, and I saw Xavier blushing a little. I couldn't help but to wink at him when we made eye contact, and he blushed harder. Why, Dorian? Well, I guess now that I know he's open to an open relationship with what's his current boyfriend? Marshall. Now that I know he's open to an open relationship with Marshall, I guess he's okay. Yeah, I guess his flirting with Xavier makes a little bit more sense. I clapped my hands, eager to move on with the conversation now that the barrier of awkwardness has been overcome. Now, with that out of the way, I believe there was an agreement the 2 of you would share more of your... I believe there was an agreement the 2 of you would share more about yourselves. Indeed there was. It's only fair you get to ask whatever, given the significance of what you told us. As I was thinking it over, Xavier spoke up. I have one. If that's all right with you, Dorian. Be my guest. Put my service to the test. Well, I guess it's not so much a question as more of a general thing to be curious about, but I'd like to hear more about your lives before the apocalypse. I think that's a good way to get to know each other better. Shen tensed up at the proposal, Treat giving them a quick glance at the same moment. Well, I can start us off with that since we didn't really have proper introductions. I'll skip past the name part since Shen already introduced me. I mean, you can tell me why your name is Treat. I mean, where did that come from? I almost asked about it before remembering the earlier warning they'd give. Oh, right, I can't ask about it. The earlier warning they'd given. They said I can't ask him why his name is Treat, right? I grew up here in the city, originally living on the east side before moving to west when I was around 8 or so. My childhood wasn't great, but I managed. I lived with my mother, who was extremely hardworking. I lived with my mother, who was an extremely hardworking woman, who gave it her all to raise us as best as she could as a single parent. It wasn't an easy task, but she made it work. Then there's my younger sister, Trixie. She's about 2 years younger and means the whole world to me. Life was difficult for us both growing up, but it strengthened our bonds as siblings. I'll do anything for her. Hell, before high school, I started working out to make sure I could protect her better, both her and my mom. Since our mom was busy working full time, we dedicated ourselves to studying so she wouldn't worry about us or our future. At a young age, we both had the goal of getting to a place in life where we could support her like she did us. That's all sweet and dandy. Eventually, when I entered high school, I was in great shape with a studious and healthy mind. Classes were easy for me, and I was ready to learn something new, which is where rugby came into play. I joined our school's team in my second year, and by the third, I was a star player. I had a knack for strategy and a build that was imposing to others my age. During the championship that year, several scouts attended the match in order to seek me out for their universities. When the time came for my final year, I didn't even have to think of where to apply. Universities from across the country were hoping to have me go to their schools, all offering full-time scholarships. It was a dream come true for me. The only problem was they were all so far away. In order to go, I'd have to leave my family behind. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, letting it out in a sigh. I couldn't do that. I wanted to stay and protect them. Eventually, Gallhaven approached me. They offered me the same deal so many other places had, and it was a miracle that I got to stay so close to my family. I accepted their offer, took up a course in biochemistry while joining their rugby team, and the rest is history. In sync, Xavier and I gave nods and smiles of approval. It made sense why he'd lasted through the previous Wonderland now. He was strong, kind-hearted, and a protector. That combined with his intellect made him a more than worthy ally and command a lot of my respect. A voice whispered in the back of my mind, though, having listened carefully to his words. He talked about his sister in the present tense, but his mother in the past. Something had happened there. Oh boy. Instead of dragging the conversation down with what would no doubt be a difficult topic, I turned my attention to Shen instead. What about you? What about me? They'd grown quiet and tense during Treat's recount for reasons I wasn't sure why. Well, what's your story? They looked like they were about to snap, but Treat put a hand on their shoulder and they took a deep breath. Avoiding our eyes, they spoke. There's nothing to tell, really. Average life. Realized I was non-binary. Came out. Was accepted by most. And that's it. Never went to college and instead lived with a roommate straight out of high school. I waited for anything more of an explanation, but none came. It's clear their past was something they weren't comfortable talking about. I wanted to try and ask more, to convince them to open up, but when Treat shot a quick glance towards Xavier and I... But when Treat shot a quick glance towards Xavier and I and shook his head through, though, I could tell that was all we'd get for now. I'll go next then, if that's all right. Turning, I looked at him in surprise. Are you sure? He gave me an understanding nod and whispered to me. It might make Shen more willing to open up if I do. They might be able to empathize. I smiled, happy that his kind-heartedness remained at the forefront of his mind. Ooh, does he tell him about the birthday OVA? I listened with the others as he gave them the same story he told me on our journey, only interrupting a few times when he started to go on a tangent over one of his passions. Then I found Dorian, and he told me about what happened to the world, and now we're here. Treat and Shen wore the same look of sympathy as I had when he'd first told me. It wasn't exactly the happiest of backgrounds, but Xavier told it all with a smile. Treat leaned forward and rustled the bat's head fur. Aw. You're a brave guy, Xavier. There's a few things I have questions about, but I'll leave most of those for later. What I really want to know is how old you are. Are you legal? I'm kidding. Man, they're growing. Look, they're infecting me with their raunchy humor. I'm 22, turning 23 this year. Hey, the same as me then. Wow, really? But you're so built. A decade of working out will do that to you, but if you're looking to help build more muscle, I can give you some more tips. As the two began talking about improving their bodies, Shen and I shook our heads and mumbled simultaneously. Youngins. Oh, youngins. We made eye contact and appraised each other. 25, going on 26. 24 as of this year. The age difference was smaller, but the years I could see behind their eyes gave me a respect that they had aged beyond their physicality. Just what was their story? A question popped into my head to ask the group that might just help me learn more about the hyena. Alright, I've got something for everyone to answer. What is this, spin the bottle? They all looked at me expectantly. What's your motivation? Things are tough in this world right now, especially with us being kidnapped, but none of us have given up yet. For me, I want to find my boyfriend and the love of my life, Marshall. I finished speaking and a feeling welled up in my chest. My quest to find Marshall is what I've dedicated myself to. But I began to realize that it's no longer the only thing keeping me going anymore. After leaving Haven to search for him, I think I was also trying to look for more purpose. I wanted to help people, like so many had risked their necks to help me. Like how Marshall reached out when we first met. Though I didn't say it out loud, I thought to myself the other motivation I'd developed in that period. I want to protect Xavier. That's it? I'm not really sure I have a solid one yet, but I think the thing I want the answer to most is what happened to my parents. They weren't the greatest at times, but they're still two of the people I love most. I smiled at the bat, taking my turn to rustle his head fur as he let out a few delighted bat noises from it. Delighted bat noises? What are those? Squeeze me! I want to find my sister. We got separated a while ago and I made some mistakes that led to, well, all this. He gestured to everything around us. I need to know that she's okay. Seems like all of us are looking for loved ones then. Guess so. What about you, Shen? What keeps you going? They laughed. Easy. It's spite. Spite? Yep. This world is a show now, and what better way for me to tell it you than to keep living and moving forward despite that? I live my life as one big middle finger to existence. It was a different response than what I was expecting, but completely on brand for them. If it helped them move forward, then I wasn't going to judge. I can respect that. Same here. It's a good rule to live by. It's very freeing. Helps me justify quite a few questionable actions. Like what? Sleeping with our captors for one. No, I haven't questioned that once. Hate is an invigorating feeling. Oh gosh. I'm afraid to know what you do. I'm afraid to know what you do question. No, just the usual. Existence, stealing candy from babies, Trees? Trees? Yeah, trees. Okay. That's a new angle for, why do you question trees? Because you can never trust a tree. Those things are evil. What? Trees are evil to you. Oh, trees are evil to you. No, I don't get why this is so hard to understand. What has a tree ever done for you? Plenty of kids each year get injured climbing them. If one falls, it can destroy a house. Not to mention, if it falls in the woods, we can't be sure if it makes a sound. I think he's joking. All of us were speechless at this. I couldn't think of a single way to argue against such an out there statement. Speaking of those traitors, where'd that raccoon go? I need to give him back his stick that's imbued with the power of superstition. We looked around the room, trying to find the reluctant helper, but unable to identify him amongst the small crowd. Guys, I found him. We turned to the bat who pointed out the window. Oh no! Where we all saw the raccoon being wrapped up by a spider like faded. Looking away before a sickening crunch sounded and the crowd cheered. Oh no. That's just sad. It was a grim reminder of our current circumstances. We backed away from the window and exchanged glances. Shen pocketing the stick with a sigh. None of us wanted to be here. Jeez. You could have used that stick, Shen. Oh no. Oh my god, that's awful. Almost like our thoughts were being read, there was a commotion by the entrance we'd all been thought in. Oh. Almost like our thoughts were being read, there was a commotion by the entrance we'd all been brought through as the other guards prepared to send in the next contestant. Will you just go and get them already? I'm only following orders. I paused. Oh, it was a woman speaking. Will you just go and get them already? I'm only following orders. I paused, listening to the voice. It was a woman speaking, and she sounded familiar. Oi, and you expect me to believe you can handle it alone? It's 2 injured people compared to 1 healthy person. I can handle it. I don't know. It's still a variable. I can prove to you just how capable I can be against 2 opponents. You and your buddy there already look like you got your shit rocked. I'd say that even better to who I'm. I'd say that'd be even to. Well, I'd say that'd be even to who I'm escorting. Dude, just let her go. But I'm not getting punched again. The first bandit let out a sigh. Fine. He cleared his throat before calling out to the crowd, not even bothering to look for whoever he needed. Uh-oh. Dorian and Xavier, your escort to the nurse is here. I blinked, surprised that we were actually being taken to be treated properly. I figured we'd have to wait until the end of Wonderland to be able to see her. Xavier beamed and slowly stood up, clearly excited to be getting out of here, but still cautious of his wounds. I followed suit and looked at our 2 new friends. Before I could get a word off, Treat pulled the 2 of us into a hug. We'll see you guys later, alright? Make sure to rest up and you'll be back to peak condition in no time. Thanks. And if we're not back in time to see your fights, then just know we're rooting for you. Wolverine gave a laugh. No need to worry about that. Wonderland is going to be lasting 3 days this time. You 2 already made a splash today, so they'll probably spread its returning contenders out to keep it interesting. The thought of having to sit through 2 more days like today sounded like actual hell. As we turned to leave, we raised our arms to wave as they did the same and caused Treat's shirt to rise up and expose some of his midriff. If my eyes hadn't drifted there, I doubt I would have noticed that there was a small but noticeable mark on the left side of his torso. A burn scar. My mind began to spin as we turned and walked to where our escort was waiting, but the sight of her distracted me immediately before I could give it much thought. It's it's Standing at the entrance was a tall but muscular woman, a bandana covering her muzzle. She was a German Shepherd, as evidenced by her color scheme and other canine features. And we'll be introduced to this woman next time. Just because my timer's long overdue. I just wanted to get through a good section. This felt like a good place to pause it for now. We finally learned more about our friends and finished that story about him being cheated on. Had some laughs, had some ha-has, and we lost the raccoon guy. That's so sad. Man, the story's a bit ruthless sometimes. But I hope you guys still enjoyed it. At the very least, enjoy the story, not the death and carnage. I mean, maybe you like that too. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed my reading. Feel free to. I hope you like and subscribe and all that. I'm trying to think of anything else. Not too many other updates. Just gonna keep cranking out these episodes as much as I can. Maybe some more polls and some other ones. I don't know how much longer I've got for one last night, but I'll keep going all the way. So again, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good night, a good day, a good evening, whatever it is for you, and we'll just see you next time. Take care. Bye now.